together. I don't understand why she has to be like that.
Like what?
There are moments in reality TV that make you laugh, moments that make you cry, and then there are moments that make you want to crawl out of your own skin from secondhand embarrassment.
The water or something.
And if you
looks so
watch the
beautiful
latest
down there.
episode of
Okay,
Welcome
let's
to
go do it.
Plathville, you already know exactly what
Who
I'm
should we
talking
throw the
about.
cake at?
The dinner scene,
Probably save it
the
for
champagne,
Mariah's
Barry
ex-boyfriend
Plath
when he
leaning
shows
across
up.
the
Oh, he's
table
coming?
and saying, of all things, something about oral. Yes, you heard that right. It wasn't edited, it wasn't taken out of context, and it wasn't whispered off camera. Barry, the patriarch of this very conservative family, sat there in front of his adult children and their friends and said something that crossed a line so hard, viewers everywhere had to pause their screens just to process what they'd heard. Some fans laughed nervously, others admitted they had to mute it, and plenty just flat out said, "This is one of the most disturbing family dinner scenes in reality TV history." Hi friends, I'm Sarah, and this is Sister Wives Daily. If you're new here, welcome. We dive deep into the moments TLC doesn't want you to think too hard about, the scenes that look like lighthearted entertainment, but actually reveal so much about the families behind the cameras. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next breakdown, because trust me, this season of Welcome to Plathville is just getting started. Now let's be clear, awkward family dinners are a universal experience. We've all been there. Somebody says something inappropriate, another person pretends to laugh it off, and you're left staring at your plate wishing the ground would swallow you whole. But what made this particular scene so jarring wasn't just the comment itself. It was who said it and how it landed. Barry Plath has always presented himself as this traditional, buttoned-up father figure. And yet, in this moment, he seemed almost oblivious to how invasive and downright creepy his words sounded, especially considering the setting. What we saw wasn't just a cringe-worthy dad joke gone wrong. It was a collapse of boundaries. It was a reminder that this family, already fractured by divorce, heartbreak, and very public growing pains, doesn't quite know where to draw the line anymore. Kim laughed. Lydia looked caught between amusement and horror, and the rest of the table shifted uncomfortably in their seats. For viewers, it was both hilarious and heartbreaking. And that's the tone we need to sit with as we unpack this episode. Because yes, you can laugh, it's absurd, it's uncomfortable, and it's reality TV gold. But underneath the laughter is something much heavier. The slow unraveling of a family dynamic, on full display for millions of people to watch. So tell me, were you able to sit through that scene without cringing? Or did you, like so many others, reach for the remote in pure disbelief? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I can't wait to hear how you all survived that dinner table. If the dinner scene was the moment that made us all squirm, then the wedding dress fitting was the scene that made us pause for a completely different reason. On the surface, it looked like one of those sweet reality TV moments. A young bride-to-be trying on gowns, glowing with hope, surrounded by family. But in true Welcome to Plathville fashion, nothing is ever that simple. Because while Lydia stood there with that unmistakable sparkle in her eye, ready to step into her future, Mariah sat in the background carrying a heartbreak so heavy it practically radiated off the screen. Let's start with Lydia. She walked into that dress shop almost floating. You could feel her joy before she even spoke a word. The girl who was once so quiet, so reserved, now suddenly allowed to embrace the idea, of building her own family, of stepping out from the shadow of her parents' broken marriage. It was powerful to watch. Lydia's glow wasn't just about lace and satin. It was about possibility. It was about finally feeling like she was allowed to dream without shame. But then the camera cut to Mariah. And oh, that contrast hit like a punch to the gut. Mariah, who once carried the same kind of bright-eyed hope, sat slouched, eyes heavy, still nursing the wounds of a relationship that shattered her. You could see it in the way she avoided eye contact, the way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. The editors didn't even have to say a word. The silence said it all. Isn't it wild how TLC frames these moments? They know exactly what they're doing. On one side of the room, they give us Lydia, practically glowing like the centerpiece of a Hallmark movie. On the other, they linger on Mariah, visibly weighed down as if her heartbreak is the unspoken ghost haunting the scene. It's not subtle, it's emotional whiplash. And it's exactly why we can't look away. Because let's be honest, haven't we all been both Lydia and Mariah at some point in our lives? Haven't we all been the person bursting with excitement for the future, and also the person sitting there trying to clap and smile while your heart feels like it's in pieces? That's the thing about this show. It gives us the awkward and the absurd, but in moments like this, it also mirrors back the very real messiness of being human. And the reactions at that fitting, they were just as telling as the gowns themselves. Lydia's joy was contagious. Her siblings, even through the awkward laughter, couldn't help but smile with her. But with Mariah, there was this uncomfortable tension, like no one quite knew what to say. Do you cheer for Lydia without making Mariah's pain worse? Do you acknowledge Mariah's heartbreak at all? Or do you pretend it's not sitting there in the room like an elephant in the corner? Here's what struck me. Lydia seemed almost untouchable in her joy. No matter what anyone said, she stood tall. She beamed. She allowed herself to embrace that moment. That takes a kind of bravery we don't talk about enough. Because growing up in a household where happiness was often conditional, where boundaries were blurred, Lydia's glow felt like rebellion. It was her saying, I get to have this, I get to feel this, and no one can take it from me. Mariah, though, represents the other side of that coin. Her heartbreak is real, raw, and still bleeding. And when TLC frames her against Lydia, it almost feels cruel, like we're being asked to compare joy and despair in real time. But maybe that's the point. Maybe they want us to sit in that discomfort, to feel both at once. And here's where I have to ask you, did you laugh during that scene? Did you find yourself chuckling at the awkwardness of it all? The way the editors cut between Lydia's glowing face and Mariah's heavy silence? Because I'll be honest, I did. But I also felt a lump in my throat. Because behind the awkward editing tricks is the very real truth of two sisters walking very different emotional paths at the exact same moment. It's funny, and it's heartbreaking all at once. That's the emotional tightrope this show keeps us on, never letting us settle into one feeling before jerking us into another. So what do we take away from this? For me, it's that Lydia's glow isn't just about a dress or a wedding. It's about hope refusing to be dimmed, even when everything around her is messy and broken. And Mariah's heartbreak? It's about how hard it is to watch someone else's joy when you're still learning how to carry your own pain. And if we're being honest, isn't that the most human thing of all? If the wedding dress fitting was all about emotional contrast, the champagne dinner was about one thing: boundaries collapsing in real time. And honestly, this might go down as one of the most uncomfortable dinner scenes reality TV has ever given us. Picture it. The table is set, glasses are clinking, everyone is trying to play their part in this celebratory atmosphere. At first, it feels almost normal. Family finally letting loose a little, champagne in hand, trying to laugh and connect. But it doesn't take long before the cracks start to show. And then Barry opens his mouth. Now, we've all watched Barry Plath long enough to know he's not the guy you expect to make edgy comments. He's usually reserved, almost painfully awkward, more comfortable with Bible verses than banter. But on this night, with champagne flowing and the cameras rolling, he decided to break character. And he did it in the worst possible way. Yes, I'm talking about that comment, the one that stopped the table cold, the oral joke, dropped right there in front of his adult kids, his ex-wife, and national television. Let me just say this. It wasn't witty, it wasn't clever, and it wasn't even all that shocking in content. What made it so jaw-dropping was the context. A father making a sexual innuendo in mixed company to his grown children, who clearly wanted the earth to open up and swallow them whole. And Kim's reaction? Oh, she laughed. Not a nervous chuckle either, but a full-on indulgent laugh like this was all just good fun. And that's when the scene shifted from cringy comedy to something darker. Because it didn't feel like harmless banter anymore. It felt like invasion. Here's why. Family dinners are supposed to be about connection, about food and conversation and safety. But this wasn't safety. This was parents collapsing every healthy boundary imaginable, right there in front of their kids, with TLC cameras capturing every second. It wasn't intimacy, it was exposure. And the kids, bless them, were left to deal with the fallout in real time, trying to plaster on smiles while their insides screamed. Honestly, I can't stop thinking about what that must have felt like. Imagine sitting across from your parents while they sip champagne and start tossing out innuendos lit. Key, it's open mic night. Could you keep your face straight? Could you laugh it off? Or would you grab your coat and run for the door? Because I'll be real with you. I would not have survived that dinner. Not a chance. I would have excused myself faster than you can pop a cork. And I know a lot of you felt the same watching it. But here's the bigger point. This wasn't just about an inappropriate comment. It was about a power dynamic. Kim and Barry have spent years blurring boundaries with their kids, from controlling their relationships to dictating their futures. So, of course, when they sit down at dinner, those blurred lines show up again. They don't treat their children as independent adults with their own dignity. They treat them as an audience for whatever performance they feel like giving. And it's not just awkward, it's damaging. Because moments like this tell the kids, and us as viewers, that their comfort doesn't matter. That the parents need to joke, to perform, to prove they can be loose and fun comes first. Even if it humiliates everyone else in the room, that's why this scene sticks. Not because Barry said something risque, but because it showed us how easily the Plath parents trade privacy for attention. And when you add cameras into the mix, it becomes even more unsettling. Were Barry and Kim trying to shock their kids? Or were they trying to shock us, the viewers? Either way, their children were the collateral damage. I keep circling back to one thought. If this is what they're willing to say on camera, what do they say off camera? How many lines have already been crossed that we'll never see? So let me throw this back to you, friends. Could you have survived that dinner without walking out? Or would you, like me, have grabbed your glass, muttered nope, and made a beeline for the exit? Because for all the awkward humor TLC wants us to allow, Giat, this wasn't funny. This was a family unraveling at the table, one champagne glass at a time. If dinner was all about boundaries collapsing, the next chapter of this episode turned the spotlight onto Micah, the Plath kid who has always been chasing freedom with both hands. And you know what? For a while, it really looked like he was going to get it. We've watched Micah step away from the family's strict, suffocating rules and carve out something that actually looks like independence. He moved out. He started modeling. He built this new identity that didn't revolve around pleasing Kim or Barry. For viewers, he became this symbol of what breaking free can look like when you finally shake off years of control. And let's be honest, he glows in that freedom. There's this lightness to him now, the kind you only get after carrying weight for far too long and finally setting it down. You can feel how badly he wants to be seen for who he is, not for who his parents told him to be. But independence, as Micah is learning, doesn't mean immunity. It doesn't mean you're suddenly shielded from criticism or pain. And that truth hit him hard when Veronica, his girlfriend, decided to speak up. Veronica's comments didn't come from nowhere. She wasn't cruel, but she was blunt. She called out his choices, questioned his maturity, and basically put a mirror in front of him, one that didn't reflect the shiny, free Micah image he's worked so hard to polish. And honestly, you could see the sting on his face. That tiny flicker of defensiveness, that moment of doubt. Because here's the thing, Micah's identity is still fragile. He's out there, yes, but he's still figuring himself out. And when someone you love calls you out, it cuts deep. For viewers, it was a complicated moment. On one hand, you sympathize with him. You see a young man who fought like hell to break away from control, only to be told he's not quite there yet. You want to protect him, to cheer him on, to remind Guillaume, him that growth takes time. But on the other hand, you also see his flaws. Micah has been reckless at times. He has leaned into freedom without always thinking about what comes next. That's part of being young, sure, but it's also part of why Veronica's words hit home, because they weren't baseless. And that's what makes this moment so layered. It wasn't just about a girlfriend criticizing her boyfriend. It was about how freedom doesn't automatically fix everything. You can leave the family home, you can drink champagne, you can book modeling gigs and smile for the cameras, but inside, you're still wrestling with the habits, the doubts, the insecurities that shaped you for years. Micah wanted freedom to be the end of the story, but Veronica reminded him and us, that it's just the beginning. Independence is messy. It's vulnerable. And sometimes it means hearing truths you don't want to hear. I'll tell you what got me. The silence after her comments. You could feel Micah trying to hold on to his composure, trying to play it cool, but his eyes gave him away. And isn't that the most relatable thing? That moment when you're trying so hard to project confidence, but someone you care about peels back the mask without even trying. It raises this bigger question. Can you ever really be free if
The water
your
or
self-worth
something.
still depends
It
on
looks
what
so
other
beautiful
people
down
think
there.
of you?
Okay, let's go do
For
it.
Micah, that's the test.
Who should
It's
we
not
throw the
just
cake
about
at?
moving out or building
Probably
a
save
career.
it for
It's about learning how to
Mariah's
stand
ex-boyfriend
tall
when he shows
people,
up.
Oh, he's coming?
especially loved ones, question your choices. And maybe that's why viewers connect so deeply with him. Because we've all been there. We've all had those moments where we finally think we're standing on our own 2 feet, only for someone's criticism to knock us back a step. It doesn't make us weak. It makes us human. So yes, we can root for Micah, flaws and all. We can acknowledge too. He's still learning, still fumbling, still getting called out, while also celebrating that he's even in a position to be criticized for his own choices, not just his parents' rules. That's progress. And I want to ask you, friends, when you watched that moment, did you side more with Micah, wanting him to be left alone to figure it out? Or with Veronica, believing that tough love is part of growth? Because I think that question sits at the heart of his whole journey. Micah's freedom is real, but it's also fragile. And maybe that's the truest picture of independence we could get. It's not a straight line. It's not all glow. It's work, it's pain, and it's learning how to stand up even when the people closest to you knock you down a peg. If Lydia's wedding dress moment was framed as glowing innocence, then Mariah's storyline in this episode was the exact opposite. A window into raw heartbreak, pain, and the kind of vulnerability that can either draw you in with compassion or make you question the ethics of reality TV. Mariah has always been presented as one of the more complicated members of the Plath family. Where Lydia radiates optimism, Mariah carries the weight of cynicism. And honestly, who can blame her? She's been burned, she's been betrayed, and she's been used as a lightning rod for family conflict more than once. She doesn't smile and nod when things fall apart. She says it out loud. And in this episode, that rawness wasn't softened. It was magnified. The cameras lingered on her pain. You could see it in her body language, the downcast eyes, the way her voice cracked when she tried to talk about moving forward. And yet, instead of being given space to grieve or to heal, her heartbreak was positioned as part of the show's drama. It wasn't just her pain anymore. It was a storyline, a hook, something for viewers to consume. And that's where things get complicated. Because as an audience, you feel 2 things at once. You do sympathize with Mariah. You want to hug her, to remind her that heartbreak doesn't define her forever, to tell her that it gets better. But at the same time, you can't ignore the fact that the show is packaging her vulnerability for entertainment. Every tear, every cynical remark, every quiet confession. It's all framed, edited, and delivered to us like it's a plot twist, not a human life. When you put her story next to Lydia's, the contrast couldn't be clearer. Lydia glows in soft lighting, hopeful music, moments of celebration. Mariah sits in shadows, her voice underscored with somber tones. It's hope versus heartbreak, glow versus cynicism, and the editing only sharpens the divide. The show needs that contrast because it heightens drama. But for Mariah, that means her very real pain gets turned into a spectacle. And I'll be honest with you, as I was watching, I felt uncomfortable. There's something unsettling about seeing someone so young, someone still figuring out who they are, having their lowest moments broadcast for the world to dissect. It's one thing to share joy on reality TV, it's another to have your grief turned into weekly content. It raises a bigger question. Are we rooting for Mariah, or are we just participating in her exploitation? Because the truth is, heartbreak sells. Pain keeps people tuned in. And while that may make for compelling TV, it also leaves you wondering how fair it is to Mariah herself. But maybe that's what makes her so compelling. Unlike Lydia, who fits neatly into the good daughter, hopeful bride storyline, Mariah refuses to be smoothed over. Her cynicism is her defense. Her honesty cuts through the show's polish. And in a way, that makes her the most real of all the Plaths. What struck me most in this episode wasn't even what Mariah said. It was what she didn't say. The pauses, the hesitation, that feeling that she wanted to hold back but couldn't because the cameras were rolling and silence itself becomes part of the story. Have you ever been in that place where your emotions feel too big to contain, but you also don't want to be seen falling apart? That's the space Mariah was living in. And I think that's why viewers feel so torn. You want to root for her. You want her to find peace, to rebuild, to prove that she's stronger than heartbreak. But at the same time, you wonder if the show itself is making that journey harder by freezing her in this role of the cynical, heartbroken sister and replaying it week after week. So I want to put the question to you, friends. When you watch Mariah, do you see her as a young woman you want to support? Or do you feel the show crosses a line by turning her heartbreak into a storyline? Because I think that tension, sympathy versus spectacle, is what defines her whole arc right now. Mariah's pain is real. Her heartbreak is real. And no amount of editing can change that. But the way it's presented to us, the way it's framed as a contrast to Lydia's glow, says more about the show's priorities than it does about Mariah herself. And that's the tragedy. She's not just living through heartbreak, she's living through heartbreak on display. If there's one thing this episode proves, it's that we just can't look away. Even when the cringe hits full force, even when you feel your stomach twist and your toes curl, you stay glued to the screen. And that's no accident. It's classic reality TV craftsmanship. The producers know exactly how to turn discomfort into suspense, and the Plaths, they're unwitting stars of their own spectacle. Take the dinner scene, for example. Barry's jaw-dropping oral comment, Kim's indulgent laughter, the children trying desperately to hold it together. It's a cringe moment so intense that you almost want to look away, but you don't. And that's exactly why these moments are so effective. They're edited with precision. Lingering camera angles, tight cuts on reactions, subtle background music, all to make us feel every ounce of secondhand embarrassment. It's as if the show is whispering, look at this awkwardness, feel it, and then stay tuned for what happens next. And here's the thing, it works. We squirm, we grimace, we laugh nervously, and yet we care. Why? Because we recognize ourselves in the chaos. Whether it's a family dinner gone wrong, a sibling feud, or a parent overstepping boundaries, the emotions are universal. Everyone has felt awkward, humiliated, or powerless at some point. Seeing it amplified on screen allows us to both empathize and distance ourselves safely. It's a cocktail of humor, discomfort, and human curiosity that keeps us hooked. I can't help but notice how this style parallels other reality shows. Think Sister Wives or The Duggars, families whose lives are deeply personal yet packaged for entertainment. The formula is strikingly similar. Highlight emotional extremes, edit for dramatic effect, and frame every awkward interaction as a must-watch moment. In all of these shows, cringe is a hook. It's the emotional glue that keeps viewers coming back week after week. But there's more than just entertainment at play here. Psychologically, we're drawn to cringe because it activates a mix of empathy and relief. We feel for the people on screen, yet we're also secretly relieved that it's not us. There's a thrill in witnessing discomfort safely, a complicated pleasure in squirming from someone else's misstep. And producers understand this instinct intimately. They craft each episode to maximize those emotional spikes, keeping us both captivated and unsettled. Yet even as we wince, there's suspense. Every cringe moment hints at future drama. You can almost predict the fallout. Micah's next move will be scrutinized, Mariah's heartbreak might escalate, and Barry and Kim's boundary-pushing behavior will inevitably cause more tension. The show teases these possibilities without giving us answers, keeping the audience invested in what's to come. It's that delicate balance of expose you, awkwardness, and suspense that makes reality TV addictive. And let's be honest, we stay for the unpredictability. You never quite know when a comment will land, a reaction will explode, or a confrontation will spiral. The Plaths, like many reality TV families, give us glimpses into moments we'd never normally witness. But unlike scripted drama, the tension feels real because it is real. a mix of human imperfection and calculated production choices. So why can't we look away? Because the cringe is more than just uncomfortable. It's compelling. It forces us to confront human awkwardness, family dysfunction, and social discomfort in a way that's equal parts fascinating and horrifying. We watch, we laugh, we wince, and we care. And that's exactly the point. And as the season unfolds, I promise you, the tension is only going to escalate. Every uncomfortable dinner, every critical remark, every tearful confession is a setup for the next wave of drama. We've been teased, we've been shocked, and we've been made to squirm. And now, all we can do is wait to see which family dynamic will crack next. As we reach the climax of this episode, one thing becomes painfully clear. In the Plath family, image often clashes with truth. Every interaction, every awkward dinner, every tearful moment is filtered through layers of performance, both conscious and unconscious. And yet, behind the editing, the music cues, and the camera angles, real emotions break through. That tension between truth and image is what makes this episode so compelling and so heartbreaking. Take Barry's oral comment at dinner. On the surface, it's cringeworthy humor, a shocking remark meant to elicit laughs or gasps. But underneath, it exposes something deeper. The collapse of family boundaries, the way some members prioritize spectacle over sensitivity, and the uncomfortable power dynamics at play. We see parents crossing lines with their adult children, and T-side. He cameras are there to document every reaction. It's a moment that forces viewers to ask, is this funny? Is this wrong? Or is it both? Then there's the contrast between Lydia and Mariah. Lydia's hopeful glow versus Mariah's heartbreak isn't just a storytelling device. It's a mirror for the family's conflicting realities. One sister's optimism exists alongside another's cynicism, yet both are presented to us with the same intensity, emphasizing the duality of perception versus lived experience. The show edits these moments to heighten drama, but it also leaves room for genuine empathy. We're invited to feel for Mariah's pain, even as we laugh nervously at awkward family interactions. Micah's journey further highlights this theme. He seeks independence, freedom, and self-expression, yet Veronica's critical commentary pulls him back into scrutiny. His struggles aren't just personal, they reflect the tension between who he truly is and the image the family, and by extension the cameras, expect him to project. It's a delicate balancing act. Authenticity versus expectation, truth versus perception. And as viewers, we are both spectators and participants in that push and pull. Even the editing reinforces this tension. Long pauses, reaction shots, and dramatic cuts remind us that reality TV is a crafted experience. Yet within those crafted moments, we witness genuine human vulnerability. That's the paradox at the heart of this episode. The very techniques designed to entertain also highlight real emotional stakes. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also mesmerizing. As we watch, we can't help but reflect on our own experiences with image and truth. How often do we perform for others, suppress our authentic feelings, or mask pain to maintain appearances? The Plath struggles become a lens for examining our own lives. The universal human desire to be seen, understood, and yet somehow admired. And this is what makes the episode linger long after the credits roll. It's not just about a cringeworthy dinner or a sister's heartbreak. It's about the messy, complicated reality of family life. It's about the courage it takes to be authentic in a world that constantly judges, edits, and frames our every move. Olivia's confrontation, Mariah's vulnerability, Micah's independence. All of these moments remind us that truth and image are often at odds, and that navigating that divide is never easy. So, friends, as we close out this episode, I want to leave you with this thought. Sometimes the most powerful moments on reality TV aren't the shocking comments or dramatic confrontations. They're the quiet truths that peek through the chaos. They're the glimpses of vulnerability, the struggles for autonomy, and the courage to be authentic despite the glare of cameras. And now, I want to hear from you. Which moment struck you the most? Who do you side with? Lydia, Mariah, Micah, or Veronica? How do you balance the tension between truth and image in your own life? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Because at the end of the day, the Plaths may be a reality TV family, but their struggles are unmistakably human. And that's what keeps us watching, caring, and reflecting long after the episode ends. Wow, friends, if this episode teaches us anything, it's that cringe can be more than just uncomfortable. It can be a mirror reflecting the messy, complicated, sometimes heartbreaking reality of family life. And in this episode of Welcome to Plathville, that mirror was shattered in full view of the cameras. Every awkward glance, every misplaced comment, every tear-filled confession reminds us that family dysfunction, when captured for entertainment, becomes something we can't look away from. And yes, I have to bring it back to the dinner scene, the one moment that truly crossed the line. Barry's jaw-dropping oral comment wasn't just shocking in its timing or delivery, it exposed the collapse of boundaries, though a disregard for personal space, and the ways adults can sometimes weaponize humor at the expense of those around them. Watching Kim's reaction, the children's discomfort, and the tense atmosphere unfold, you couldn't help but feel both horrified and riveted. It was cringe turned spectacle, pain turned entertainment, and yet undeniably human. That's the beauty and the frustration of shows like this. We laugh nervously, we squirm, and we judge, but beneath it all, we see something real. We see people trying to navigate complicated emotions, relationships, and expectations, sometimes succeeding, sometimes failing spectacularly. And as viewers, we are drawn into that messy reality because it resonates. It's raw, unfiltered, and yes, occasionally unbearable. Now, I want to hear from you. Could you have sat through that dinner without walking out? Would you have tried to laugh it off like Kim, or quietly escaped like some of the kids? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and trust me, your perspectives make these conversations even richer. And don't forget, if you want to stay on top of every cringe-filled, tearful, jaw-dropping moment in Plathville, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We'll be diving into the next wave of chaos, unpacking each awkward glance, heated exchange, and family revelation. Because in Plathville, the drama never stops, and neither does the emotional roller coaster. At the end of the day, this episode wasn't just about shock value or cringe. It was about family, boundaries, vulnerability, and the tension between reality and entertainment. It reminded us that behind the cameras are real people with real feelings, navigating love, disappointment, and growing pains in a world that watches their every move. And that's exactly why we keep coming back. So friends, thanks for watching. Thanks for reflected. And thank you for being part of this journey through Plathville's most unforgettable moments. Until next time, I'm Sarah, and this has been Sister Wives Daily. Stay tuned, stay curious. Hi friends, I'm Sarah, and this is Sister Wives Daily. Today we are diving into one of the most cringeworthy, yet heartbreaking episodes of Welcome to Plathville that has fans talking. If you thought family drama couldn't get any more intense, this episode proves otherwise. From shocking comments at dinner to heartbreak that hits too close to home, this is reality TV at its rawest. It all starts with Barry's jaw-dropping oral comment during a seemingly innocent family dinner. The room freezes, the tension skyrockets, and you're left squirming in your seat, partly laughing, partly horrified. Moments like this are what make Plathville so compelling, but also so uncomfortable to watch. And that's really the tone of this episode. Cringe mixed with heartbreak, a front row seat to family dysfunction that's both shocking and oddly relatable. We see boundaries collapse in real time, personalities clash, and raw emotions spill across the table. It's exactly the kind of content that keeps viewers glued, yet simultaneously makes you question, would I survive that dinner? Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join the conversation. I want to know your thoughts. Were you uncomfortable watching that dinner scene? Did you laugh nervously or feel a pang of empathy for the family members involved? Drop your comments below because this episode is going to spark some serious discussion. The episode opens with a wedding dress fitting, and from the very first moment, the emotional extremes are on full display. Lydia glows with hope, her excitement practically radiating from every move she makes. You can see it in the way she twirls in the dress, the shy smiles she gives her family, and the subtle sparkle in her eyes that says, everything is going to be perfect. There's an innocence to her joy, a pure anticipation that makes you smile right along with her. In contrast, Mariah sits quietly, her posture heavy, her expressions tight. The heartbreak she carries is almost palpable. You can feel her cynicism pressing against the room like a weight. It's not just disappointment, it's a sense of dread, a recognition that things rarely go the way she hopes. The show frames these moments to highlight emotional contrasts, and it works beautifully. The editing subtly juxtaposes Lydia's light with Mariah's shadow, giving viewers a front-row seat to the spectrum of sibling experience. You can't help but notice the contrast. Optimism versus disappointment, anticipation versus dread, hope versus heartbreak. And while Lydia's excitement makes you want to cheer her on, Mariah's struggle tugs at your empathy. There's a tension here that is almost magnetic, the kind of tension that makes you lean closer to the screen, not wanting to miss a single reaction. As the fitting continues, small interactions between the sisters reveal even more layers. Lydia beams at compliments from family members, soaking in the support, while Mariah offers brief nods, her smiles half-hearted, almost forced. The camera lingers on these subtle cues, capturing the duality of sibling experience. You can see that while both sisters are navigating the same event, their internal landscapes couldn't be more different. It's a reminder of how subjective emotion is, even among people who share the same family, the same history, the same expectations. These early scenes do more than just highlight contrasts. They set the tone for the rest of the episode. Family dynamics are complicated, emotions are raw, and the cameras capture every nuance, every look, every sigh, every moment of hesitation. You begin to notice the patterns that will repeat throughout the episode. Lydia's optimism is persistent, almost contagious, while Mariah's cynicism seems to pull others own, subtly influencing the mood around her. And as a viewer, you are caught in the middle, laughing at awkward interactions 1 second, then feeling the weight of someone's very real emotional struggle the next. It's impossible not to reflect on your own experiences while watching. Haven't we all been in rooms where joy and disappointment collide, where one person's excitement amplifies another's sadness? The editors of Welcome to Plathville understand this instinctively. They frame these sibling moments in a way that draws viewers into the emotional web, letting us experience both the highs and lows simultaneously. And in doing so, they remind us that reality TV isn't just about spectacle. It's about human experience, captured in its most raw and unfiltered form. By the end of this first act, the emotional stage is fully set. Lydia's glow promises moments of hope and delight, while Mariah's heartbreak hints at the struggles and tensions that will unfold. The duality between them is not just a storyline, it's a lens through which we can view the complexities of family life under scrutiny. And as you watch, you can't help but ask yourself, how do these siblings navigate such stark differences,
in the water,
especially when the cameras are always
so
watching?
beautiful down there.
Okay,
It's
let's go
awkward,
do it.
It's emotional, and it's absolutely
Who should we throw the cake
gripping.
at?
The perfect opening
Probably
act
save
for
it
an
for
episode that will continue
Mariah's
to
ex-boyfriend
challenge,
when he shows up.
surprise,
Oh, he's coming?
and engage us at every turn. Then comes the infamous champagne dinner, the scene that had viewers everywhere talking. The table is set, glasses clinking lightly, laughter and conversation flowing, when suddenly Barry drops his jaw-dropping oral comment. The room freezes instantly. Eyes widen, mouths tighten, and the air becomes thick with tension. What should have been a light-hearted dinner spirals into something uncomfortably awkward in mere seconds. Kim's response is subtle but telling. A raised eyebrow, a tight-lipped smile, the kind of reaction that says, without words, this is completely inappropriate. In that moment, you realize the show isn't just highlighting Emily quirks for entertainment. It's exposing a deeper, more troubling reality. What might have been played for laughs instead hits as a stark reminder. Parents crossing boundaries with adult children can be jarring and, frankly, shocking. The cameras capture everything, magnifying the discomfort for viewers at home. Barry's comment isn't just a one-off misstep. It's a window into a family dynamic where the lines between guidance, control, and intrusion blur. And the way Kim and others respond, with hesitation, forced politeness, and subtle cues of disapproval, speaks volumes about how they navigate these moments of boundary violation. It's cringe on one level, but it's also tension, raw and palpable, on another. As a viewer, your reactions are a mix of disbelief, discomfort, and nervous laughter. You laugh because the situation is absurd, because the awkwardness is almost cartoonish in its intensity. But you also wince because somewhere beneath the absurdity, there's a painfully real struggle. A family trying to maintain respect, autonomy, and dignity under the unblinking gaze of reality TV cameras. The duality is fascinating. It's entertaining, yes, but also a little heartbreaking. You can't look away, and yet you feel the urge to do exactly that, to close your eyes and hope this moment disappears. The episode does an excellent job of showing how the smallest comments can escalate into significant tension when boundaries are ignored. Barry's remark, while brief, triggers a ripple effect. Subtle side glances, quiet sighs, and the lingering sense of discomfort that colors the rest of the dinner. It's a masterclass in reality TV storytelling, using a single moment to reveal deeper truths about family structure, power dynamics, and emotional sensitivity. And as viewers, we're drawn in, analyzing every micro-expression and gauging who is truly uncomfortable versus who is putting on a brave face for the cameras. It's also worth reflecting on how this scene plays with audience expectations. We tune into Welcome to Plathville expecting drama, quirky family, interactions, and maybe a few laughs. But moments like this challenge those expectations. They make us question what is acceptable in family life and how we define respect, even among adults. Watching Kim, Barry, and the others navigate this thin line between humor and impropriety forces us to consider, how much should family be exposed to entertainment? And at what cost? And then there's the psychological hook, the reason we can't stop watching, even when cringing. It's the secondhand embarrassment, the mix of fascination and horror at seeing boundaries collapse in real time. It's the human tendency to observe, compare, and analyze social norms, all while enjoying the spectacle of something we would never personally endure. The editors heighten this effect, lingering on pauses, zooming in on expressions, and timing the reactions perfectly. By the time the scene wraps, you're not just entertained, you're emotionally invested, wondering how the family will recover and what it will take to rebuild the uneasy balance. Here's the question I leave for you. Could you have survived that dinner without walking out? Personally, I'm torn. The cringe is powerful, the discomfort real, and yet the drama is addictive. Drop your answer in the comments, because I know this one is going to spark debate. And if you thought this was intense, buckle up. The episode isn't done testing boundaries, revealing vulnerabilities, and keeping us glued to the screen. Meanwhile, the spotlight shifts to Micah, whose journey into independence takes center stage. For Micah, stepping into adulthood isn't just about pursuing a career in modeling or making personal choices. It's about navigating the delicate balance between freedom and family expectations. Every decision he makes is under scrutiny, not just by the cameras, but by those closest to him, most notably, Veronica. Veronica's critical comment. Menteri comes through sharply in this episode. Her remarks, whether direct or veiled, create an immediate tension. Are you really ready for this? Or, maybe you should think twice, she suggests, testing his confidence and questioning his maturity. For Micah, it's a frustrating push and pull. He wants to assert himself, to carve out his own path, yet he feels the weight of familial judgment looming over every step. This dynamic perfectly captures the challenge many young adults face, only amplified tenfold by reality television. What's compelling here is how the show frames these interactions. Camera angles linger on Micah's expressions. The fleeting frustration, the tight-lipped composure, the momentary glances that betray self-doubt. The editing subtly contrasts his enthusiasm for independence with Veronica's measured critique, making viewers acutely aware of the emotional tension at play. As we watch, we can't help but root for him. We recognize his bravery, his desire to define himself on his own terms. But at the same time, we understand why he falters, why the criticism stings. Micah's journey reminds us that gaining independence doesn't equate to immunity from pain. The show captures the messy reality of growing up under intense observation. Your choices are celebrated, questioned, and sometimes undermined, all within the same scene. Viewers are drawn into this struggle, feeling both admiration and empathy. We see a young man navigating a world where freedom comes at a cost. The cost of judgment, self-doubt, and the constant balancing act between family loyalty and personal ambition. There's also an emotional resonance in Micah's story that goes beyond the immediate drama. Watching him face criticism while pursuing his dreams mirrors experiences familiar to many of us. We've all encountered moments when stepping out of our comfort zones invites scrutiny. The difference here is the stakes are higher, amplified by cameras and editing that magnify every reaction. The tension becomes almost palpable. You can feel the internal conflict, the strain of asserting independence in an environment that constantly reminds you of your limitations. At the same time, Micah's flaws make him deeply relatable. He's not perfect. He stumbles, hesitates, and reacts defensively at times. Yet these imperfections are what make his journey so compelling. Reality TV often thrives on extremes, but in this storyline, it's the nuance, the human imperfections, the awkward moments, the internal battles that truly captivate the audience. We laugh, we cringe, we sympathize, and ultimately, we invest emotionally in his growth. Another layer to consider is the broader commentary the show provides. Independence in a tightly knit public family is rarely straightforward. For Micah, even small choices, a career decision, a social interaction, a personal statement, become magnified into points of contention. Veronica's criticism underscores a universal truth. Freedom is rarely free, especially when it intersects with expectation, tradition, and familial scrutiny. And as the audience, we're invited to witness this tension unfold in real time, to empathize, and to reflect on the delicate balance between support and control in family relationships. In the end, Micah's storyline in this episode is a poignant exploration of autonomy tested. He represents the struggle to grow, to make mistakes, and to assert one's individuality in the face of criticism. Viewers can't help but feel invested, cheering for his victories, wincing at his setbacks, and recognizing a reflection of their own journeys in his experiences. The episode doesn't just entertain, it resonates, offering a window into the universal challenge of balancing independence with the realities of family life. By the time this segment wraps, the audience is left with a mix of admiration and empathy. Micah is gaining ground, learning to navigate freedom, but the pull of Veronica's critique. This reminds us that the path to independence is never linear. And that, perhaps, is the beauty of this episode. It captures the messiness of growth, the tension of familial expectation, and the triumphs and struggles of a young adult stepping into his own identity, all while keeping viewers completely glued to the screen. Act 4 dives deeper into Mariah's ongoing struggle, a storyline that seems to pull at viewers' hearts while simultaneously making us squirm. From the start of this episode, the cameras are trained on her vulnerability. Every glance, every sigh, every subtle expression of disappointment is captured, edited, and framed to elicit our emotional response. It's reality television at its most intimate, and its most uncomfortable. Mariah's heartbreak is set against Lydia's radiant optimism, creating a stark emotional contrast. Lydia moves through her day with hope, excitement, and an almost contagious glow, while Mariah carries the weight of cynicism and hurt. The producers make no effort to soften this juxtaposition. Instead, they use it to heighten the tension. As viewers, we can't help but notice the difference. One sister thriving in the spotlight, the other appearing bruised by it. And the framing makes it clear this is not just storytelling, it's an emotional spotlight on Mariah's pain. Watching her, you begin to feel a strange mix of empathy and discomfort. The empathy is immediate. She's young, navigating heartbreak and disappointment, and yet expected to perform for the cameras while managing her personal struggles. Her emotions are raw, her reactions real, and the audience is drawn into her inner world. But there's also an awareness, a creeping sense that her pain is being curated for our viewing pleasure. Every tear, every moment of hesitance is highlighted, and we're forced to confront the uneasy reality of voyeurism in reality TV. Mariah's journey is complicated by the editing and production choices. Quick cuts between her somber moments and Lydia's bright, hopeful scenes exaggerate the contrast. Slow-motion reactions, lingering camera shots, and poignant musical cues all amplify the emotional stakes. It's effective storytelling, yes, but it also raises questions. Are we watching Mariah, or are we watching a constructed narrative of her suffering? The line between genuine vulnerability and entertainment begins to blur, leaving viewers caught between rooting for her and questioning the ethics of her exposure. Her interactions with family members further complicate the narrative. Every word, gesture, and look is loaded with subtext. We see her attempt to assert herself, yet she's constantly met with subtle rebuffs, critique, or neglect. It's a reminder of how difficult it is to navigate personal heartbreak in a public setting. While Lydia's storyline provides a lightness that lifts the episode, Mariah's arc grounds it in reality. A reminder that family dynamics are rarely neat or easy, especially under the scrutiny of reality television. And yet, despite the discomfort, there's a magnetic pull to Mariah's story. We watch, transfixed, because her struggle is relatable on some level. Many viewers have experienced disappointment, heartbreak, or the feeling of being overlooked. Seeing it played out on screen in such a raw and unfiltered manner resonates deeply. It's the human element that keeps us engaged, the messy, unpolished truth of growing up, feeling hurt, and trying to find one's voice amidst chaos. At the same time, the episode doesn't shy away from the tension between sympathy and spectacle. There's an unspoken question running through every scene. Are we, as an audience, complicit in turning someone's pain into entertainment? The editing ensures that we feel both the emotional impact of Mariah's struggles and the awareness that these moments are carefully curated for maximum dramatic effect. It's a delicate, almost uncomfortable balance, one that keeps viewers engaged but also prompts reflection on the ethics of reality TV. By the end of Act 4, the audience is left grappling with mixed emotions. Mariah's vulnerability, framed by both her own heartbreak and the editing lens, is impossible to ignore. We sympathize with her, ache for her, and yet can't fully shake the sense that her pain is being amplified for our consumption. It's a compelling tension, one that underscores the power and the pitfalls of reality television, the ability to draw viewers in with real emotion, while also exploiting that emotion to keep us glued to the screen. In the midst of all this, we are invited to take a step back and reflect. Are we rooting for Mariah to heal and find happiness, or are we simply entertained by her struggle? The episode forces us to confront our own motivations as viewers, all while delivering the drama, emotion, and tension that keep reality TV compelling. Ultimately, Mariah's arc in this episode is a masterclass in vulnerability as entertainment, a delicate, painful, and unforgettable story that makes us laugh, wince, empathize, and think, all at once. Act 5 of this episode is all about why we simply can't look away. The cringe factor as a deliberate hook. Reality television, at its best, knows how to make us feel everything at once. Laughter, disbelief, secondhand embarrassment, and even genuine concern. And this episode of Welcome to Plathville delivers all of it with surgical precision. Take the editing, for example. Long pauses are strategically placed after awkward comments, giving the audience just enough time to process and cringe before the next line lands. Reaction shots linger, capturing subtle facial expressions that speak volumes. A raised eyebrow, a forced smile, a barely contained grimace. Even the music cues are carefully chosen, swelling at moments of tension or cutting abruptly to emphasize shock. Each technical choice isn't accidental. It's a tool designed to make the awkward moments feel larger than life, transforming private family discomfort into public spectacle. And it works. You find yourself squirming in your seat, maybe laughing nervously, but you're also captivated. There's an addictive quality to this secondhand embarrassment. You know you're witnessing something uncomfortable, even inappropriate, yet you can't turn away. That tension, part voyeurism, part empathy, is what keeps reality television compelling. We're laughing with the family in some moments, horrified at them in others, and endlessly curious about what will happen next. This psychological hook isn't unique to Plathville. Shows like Sister Wives or The Duggars use similar techniques. Viewers are drawn to the drama of familial dysfunction, the clashes of personalities, and the moments where social norms are bent, broken, or ignored. The difference with this episode is how concentrated the cringe is. Each scene feels carefully constructed to maximize our emotional response, yet it's all grounded in real interactions. The mix of authenticity and dramatic framing makes the discomfort strangely compelling. We see it most clearly in the family dinners, like the infamous champagne moment. Barry's shocking oral comment is amplified not just by his words, but by how the show frames everyone's reactions. The long, tense pauses, the lingering looks, and Kim's subtle yet telling response all make the scene feel almost unbearable. And that's the point. It's cringe, yes, but it's also a moment that makes us lean in, wondering how everyone will respond, how the tension will resolve, and what it reveals about family dynamics. There's also a fascinating duality at play. The cringe entertains while the emotional stakes keep us invested. We're not just laughing at awkwardness, we're also caring about the people involved. Micah navigating independence, Mariah struggling with heartbreak, Lydia glowing with hope. These threads intertwine with the cringe moments, creating a cocktail of emotion that's irresistible. We wince, we empathize, and we continue watching, unable to stop ourselves. And it raises a larger question. Why are we so drawn to these uncomfortable moments? Part of it is the relatability. Most viewers have experienced awkward social encounters, family tension, or moments of embarrassment. Watching someone else navigate those situations, especially on national television, allows us to experience the discomfort safely from our couches. There's a mix of schadenfreude and catharsis, a tension that makes cringe addictive. Finally, Act 5 teases the future drama of the season. Every awkward comment, every silent stare, every misstep builds suspense. The editing doesn't just highlight cringe for immediate effect, it sets up storylines we'll want to follow. Viewers are left asking, what will Barry do next? How will Mariah recover? Will Micah's independence survive Veronica's scrutiny? Each cringe-filled moment becomes a thread leading into the next episode, ensuring that our attention remains fixed on the family's unfolding drama. In the end, this act reminds us that cringe is more than discomfort. It's entertainment, tension, and emotional engagement all rolled into one. The episode leverages our human fascination with awkwardness, vulnerability, and familial chaos to keep us glued to the screen. We laugh, we squirm, and we care, sometimes simultaneously, and that's why we can't look away. Act 6 brings us to the heart of why this episode resonates so powerfully with viewers: the tension between truth and image. Throughout the hour, every scene seems to straddle that line, showing us both the raw humanity of the Plathville family and the heightened reality created by the cameras. It's a delicate, often uncomfortable balance, and it's exactly what keeps us glued to the screen. At the center of it all is Barry's infamous dinner comment. On the surface, it's opposite, hawking, inappropriate, and undeniably cringeworthy. But beyond the immediate discomfort lies a deeper truth about family dynamics. Boundaries have collapsed, and we see the impact of some overreach in real time. Kim's reactions, subtle but telling, underscore just how intrusive the comment felt. A mix of disbelief, discomfort, and restrained frustration. It's a stark reminder that even in families that appear close-knit, moments of overstepping can reveal cracks in trust, respect, and personal autonomy. Meanwhile, Lydia and Mariah continue to serve as emotional anchors, highlighting the contrast between hope and heartbreak. Lydia glows with optimism, her joy radiating in a way that's almost contagious, while Mariah's cynicism and vulnerability create a poignant counterbalance. The show frames these moments to maximize emotional impact, but beneath the editing and storytelling lies a genuine glimpse into sibling differences and personal struggles. Their contrasting emotional states allow viewers to witness the spectrum of human experience, joy, disappointment, resilience, and fragility, all within one family's narrative. Micah's journey into independence adds yet another layer to this act. His attempts to assert autonomy are met with scrutiny, particularly from Veronica, whose critical commentary pulls him back into the family orbit. This push-and-pull dynamic is something many viewers can relate to: the desire to grow and establish personal freedom while navigating the expectations and opinions of loved ones. Micah's struggles highlight a universal truth: independence doesn't erase emotional tethering, and growing up is rarely a clean break from family influence. Editing plays a crucial role in amplifying these themes. Every pause, reaction shot, and music cue is carefully orchestrated to heighten tension and underscore emotional stakes. Moments of vulnerability are framed in ways that invite empathy, while moments of discomfort are emphasized to elicit secondhand embarrassment. This blend of spectacle and authenticity creates a viewing experience that's both gripping and thought-provoking. Even when the cringe is almost unbearable, it's the human truths shining through that give the episode weight. What makes this act particularly compelling is how it forces viewers to reflect on their own family experiences. We see raw, unfiltered moments of conflict, miscommunication, and emotional exposure. And we can't help but compare them to our own lives. It's uncomfortable, yes, but also deeply relatable. Watching this episode is like holding up a mirror to our own struggles with boundaries, communication, and emotional expression. We're reminded that family life, with all its chaos and beauty, is messy and imperfect. And that's okay. Another key takeaway from Act 6 is the tension between image and reality. While the show is undeniably edited for drama, the human vulnerability that breaks through feels genuine. Viewers are given access to intimate, emotionally charged moments that might otherwise remain private. That interplay between crafted spectacle and authentic emotion is what makes Welcome to Plathville so addictive. It's not just about shocking comments or awkward interactions, it's about the truths that emerge in those moments and how they resonate with audiences on a deeply personal level. Ultimately, this episode reminds us that family dynamics are universal, even when amplified on reality television. The clash between truth and image, between independence and expectation, and between joy and heartbreak is something everyone experiences in one form or another. The show captures it in a way that's unflinchingly raw, making viewers laugh, squirm, empathize, and reflect, often all at once. Act 6 closes the arc of the episode with a sobering yet relatable realization. While the cameras may frame the chaos for entertainment, the emotions are real. Barry's boundary crossing, Lydia's hope, Mariah's heart break. And Micah's growing pains all remind us that behind every cringe-worthy moment lies genuine human experience. And that's what makes this episode resonate long after the credits roll. If this episode teaches us anything, it's that cringe isn't just uncomfortable. It can also act as a mirror, reflecting the complexities and dysfunctions of family life. Barry's jaw-dropping dinner comment didn't just make us wince or nervously laugh. It revealed something deeper. The fragile boundaries between parent and adult child, the constant negotiation of respect, and the tension of living life under the unblinking gaze of cameras. Moments like this are what make Welcome to Plathville both compelling and, at times, almost unbearable to watch. Watching these scenes, we experience a strange mix of emotions. We laugh, we squirm, and yes, we sometimes judge, but underneath it all, there's something undeniably real. We see people navigating love, disappointment, and the messy process of growing up. Lydia's radiant optimism, Mariah's heartbreak, and Micah's push for independence all remind us that the drama isn't just for entertainment. It's the raw, complicated truth of family life laid bare. The tension between what the cameras capture and what the family experiences in real time is what keeps viewers hooked, even when the moments feel painfully awkward. And it forces a personal reflection. Could you have stayed at that dinner without walking out? How would you handle a family dynamic where boundaries collapse in the most shocking ways, right in front of cameras and millions of viewers? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know how you would survive or react to that kind of chaos. Your perspective makes this conversation richer because the show isn't just a spectacle. It's a reflection of all our own messy, imperfect family experiences. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you can stay updated on every awkward, tearful, and jaw-dropping moment Plathville has to offer. The drama never stops, and the emotional roller coaster continues to pull us along. Because even when the cringe is intense, the human vulnerability beneath it all is what resonates most. Every glance, sigh, and reaction captured on camera reminds us that behind the spectacle are real people with real feelings, navigating the tension between truth and image. This episode wasn't just cringe, it was a mirror of family, vulnerability, and the push and pull between authenticity and performance. It showed us that reality TV can be uncomfortable, funny, heartbreaking, and enlightening all at once. And that's exactly why we can't look away. Until next time, I'm Sarah, and this has been Sister Wives Daily. Stay tuned for the next wave of Plathville chaos. And remember, behind every shocking comment and awkward interaction, there's a story about love, family, and the messy, beautiful reality of growing up together.